Hi there, welcome back. This is a video over operations with integers. And what we're going to be talking about today specifically is this thing called Pemdas, okay? And Pemdas is what we use to talk about the order of operations. And when you think about the order of operations, we're talking about the order in which we do math, okay? So Pemdas is a way for us to remember that. All right, so if I write down PEMDAS on the left side of my screen, then this is a way for me to remember the order. So PEMDAS is what we use first. So the first operation we look for is parentheses. Okay, the second operation we look for is exponents. Then we look for multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Okay, and this is the order in which we do things. So one thing I want to talk about before we move on is this concept of an exponent and what an exponent is before we get started on this. So remember that exponents are is repeated multiplication. Okay, so if I had, say, the number 3 squared, what this means is I'm doing 3 times 3, which gives me 9. Okay, let's say I had 4 squared. That means I'm doing 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is going to give me 16. Okay, so the little 2, the little number above here is your exponent. Okay, now it's nice when the exponents are 2s, but what if you had like 3? So let's say you had 2 to the 3rd power. This means you're taking 2 and multiplying it by itself 3 times. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 again gives you 8. All right, and that's what I'm doing when I'm talking about exponents. Okay, now let's look at a couple of practice problems so that I can show you how I use order of operations in PEMDAS. Okay, so on a problem like this, you see this big expression here, all right? And all it's asking you to do is do the math, okay? And so I want to evaluate this expression, but it's hard to know where to start. That's where PEMDAS comes in, because PEMDAS tells me where to start. I need to start with my parentheses. So the first thing that I see with my parentheses is I want to do what's inside the parentheses first, okay? Now, that's the only operation I'm going to do. I need to drop everything else down. So I've got 4 times 8 minus 6. That value is going to give me a value of 2. Times 5 squared minus 6 divided by 3. Now the next one that I want to do is I want to do my exponents, okay? And I see that I have an exponent here. So this is just going to prompt me to multiply 5 by itself twice. So I have to do that part first. So I'm going to drop everything down, and I'm going to do 4 times 2 times 5 squared, which is 25, okay? And then I'm going to then subtract 6 and then divide by 3. All right, so now that I've done that, what I want to then do is look at multiplication and division as the same thing, okay? I can do multiplication and division hand in hand, and I just work from left to right. All right, so what I see now is that I've got 4 times 2, which is 8. So I want to do 4 times 2, which is 8, and then multiply that by 25. 8 times 25 is going to give me a value of 200. So I have 200. And then I'm going to continue out and write out minus 6 divided by 3. Now I still want to do negative 6 divided by 3, and I think the confusing thing at this point is thinking about this negative here, okay? This negative is just going to stay there. Now you can either think of it as like negative 6 divided by 3, or you can drop everything else down, 200 minus then 6 divided by 3, which is just going to be 2. Okay, so then now I have 200 divided by 2, and I do addition and subtraction. Those go hand in hand, and so since I'm only subtracting, that's the last step I do. 200 minus 2 is going to give me a whole value of 198. All right, and that's what I'm looking at. All right, I'm going to do one more practice problem so that you get a better understanding of how to use PEMDAS. Okay, so the first thing I want to look for is parentheses. Can I do anything inside of parentheses? All right, so what I see here is I have 2 minus 6, and that's going to give me negative 4. Now I'm going to drop everything down, negative 3 squared plus the value negative 4 and then 10. Okay, now I'm looking for exponents. And I see that I have this thing here that says negative 3 squared. Now this is a little bit of a nuance, but when I have negative 3 squared, what I'm really doing is I'm doing, and this is kind of confusing, but I'm going to write this out. I'm going to say negative 1 times 3 squared plus negative 4 times 10, okay? If I had parentheses around my negative 3, then that would be negative 3 times negative 3, okay? There's a difference. Let me write this out here. Negative 3 squared means I'm doing negative 3 times negative 3. But if I have just negative 3 squared, that means I have negative 1 times 3 times 3. Okay, this one will give me positive 9. This one will give me negative 9. Okay, so when I'm doing this, that's what I want to consider. But I do have to do this part next. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 squared, which is going to give me negative 1 times 9. All right, and then I'm going to add negative 4 and then times 10. Now, when I have parentheses around a number, that simply just means that that's that quantity and that I'm multiplying. All right, so in this case, I've got negative 4 times 10. I've also got negative 1 times 9. So let's put that all together. Negative 1 times 9 is just simply, and let's do this. We're doing multiplication and division. Okay, so let me make sure I color code this stuff. Negative 1 times 9 gives me negative 9. And then plus, I've got negative 4 times 10, which gives me negative 40. Okay, so now if all I'm doing is just adding negative 9 and negative 40, then I just want to add those two numbers together. They're negative. It's going to be negative 49, and that's my final answer. So hopefully you understand the concept of using Pemdas. Make sure you're doing a lot of practice, and holler if you got any questions. Thanks a lot. Bye.